The purpose of today is to give you guys more awareness about the emotional side of eating and kind of help you connect some of those dots, and then actually give you some strategies to both prevent and stop them when they do happen. So the chocolate one, we'll be able to put an end to it. So today's agenda, why are we here? I'm going to talk a little bit about my story and why I'm in front of you and why I'm passionate about this stuff. And also, we talked a little bit about, a lot of people have the question of why can't I stop? And so that's what we get into. A brief about human emotions and eating behavior, so how they connect together. What is emotional eating kind of at its core? We'll talk a little bit about what your definitions are and why you guys should care about that. Some mindset strategies to overcome emotional reactivity, essentially what creates that binge was some sort of episode prior to. So we talk about it, an action plan and behaviors to overcome that, and then strategies to overcome emotional eating, so both prevention and stopping it once it does happen. My story, and I'll be really quick about this, I was an athlete my entire life and considered elite since the age of 8, where essentially I was training year-round and supposed to be eating specific stuff. It was all wrong. I was overweight and unhealthy as a youth. I was just a really talented athlete, thankfully. I ate very poorly. My family's genetics was not very good. Our historical lifestyle was really poor. We didn't know any better. I come from a very poor village in Nova Scotia, so we had Kraft dinner, hot dogs, and ice cream and cereal. It's basically what I was told to eat for the most part. This was me at 11 on the left and 14 on the right. I'm not sure how blurry it is there, but I was 145 pounds on the left there and 195 pounds on the right. So in 3 years, I put on 50 pounds. I weigh 185 pounds today. So you can imagine how much bigger and what my body composition looked like, what my health profile was like. It wasn't very good. In this picture, you can see I made a big change. I'm on the bottom right there, and I was, I think, 17 years old at this picture. The rest of my family, that's our genetics. That's how everybody else looks. So if you go back to this one, you can see my brother, my mom right here. You can see after 2 years, my brother lost 100 pounds, my mom lost 50. And to this day, they're both hovering around that same healthy weight. And all it started was, they asked me, how did I stop? How did I stop binge eating? Because we all did it. So that's the story that we get into today. So when I was a kid, although I was talented, I was in that popular crowd. I got made fun of a lot. And so while I was getting made fun of, I thought it was funny, but I was depressed. So I'd put on that funny face, I would eat the words, and then I would go home later and I would eat the food. And so I kept this habit with me for decades to stop the sting from happening all through high school, even into the first year university. I lost my scholarship offers for baseball, and that led me to a whole state of depression for a little while. Food was it. I gained 20 pounds in first year university, all that fun stuff. And so finally I was able to gain control over it. So fast forward 20 years, I've now worked with thousands of athletes and clients all over the world, from professional athletes to business executives. I've noticed a very definite pattern between emotions, success, and failure, especially when it comes to emotional side of eating, but in every sort of area. And so I've looked at all of those components when it comes to training, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to food. So today we talk about food. And so how many here have ever realized or thought about something and you just felt it in your gut, but you couldn't put any words to it? Does that ever happen to anybody? And so you're thinking about something like, I really can't talk about it, I can't correlate it, but I feel it. And that's that second brain that we have. And so, as everybody understands our enteric nervous system, again, I get to talk about this to parents and with hockey players and athletes, and usually this is where it goes over their heads. So the enteric nervous system, part of our autonomic nervous system, we don't really have control over it, but it is in our stomach. It works with the polyvagal system, and essentially what it does is it serves to convey information about the state of the body in social environments, how we're feeling in relationships with others. And that's in our stomach. So you can imagine why it's really hard to say no to certain things. It's an autonomic thing that is going to release the same chemicals and hormones in our brain that our central nervous system, our brain, could do. So automatic, good luck trying to stop that stuff. So we want to prevent it from happening first. Does that all make pretty good sense? Good. So talking about it, the second brain, it processes information about how you feel, how others make you feel, social threats and relationships and perceptions as how they relate to relationships. It's in your stomach, connected to your brain. These are things we want to help young kids realize without getting into all the science, but help them understand the reason why you can't put words to it is it's emotion, and there are no words in the limbic system or into emotion. It's feeling. We don't want to control them, we want to understand them. We won't be able to control autonomic stuff, but we can understand what it means to be able to use it later. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we go. And so really what this slide, when I want you guys to get at this, yes, we feel with our gut. Yes, it's the same system that secretes dopamine, serotonin, things in our brain, but the big one is it's this biological connection. So it's hardwired, right? Hardwired stuff, hard to change. Peripheral stuff, easy to change. So behavior is easy to change. chemistry, biological chemistry. We're not going to change it, but we can understand how to use it, and we can express it differently. So I really want you guys to gain that. So what is emotional eating? And I love this slide. Anybody ever see that dessert spelled backward is stressed and vice versa? Ironic, I'm not sure. Correlated, I'm not sure. It's pretty cool, and I always love seeing it. The connection to desserts and or sweets, and we're going to talk about that in a second as to why with taste buds in our tongue and the types of food that people put out there nowadays. Yes, the food industry is creating stuff that heightens your sense of taste buds to create an addiction to it. It's essentially what they're doing. Creates mayhem and messes up all of our circuitry. And so once that happens, there's no positive feedback loop. It just becomes this negative feedback loop, and we really can't control it. Emotional eating is always viewed as I eat poor food because of my emotions. Would everybody kind of agree that's the definition that you would hold as far as emotional eating, or does anybody have anything different? No? Pretty agreed? So at its core, emotional eating is a pattern. That's the big one I want everybody to understand. It's a pattern of behaviors, usually using food as a solution, and that food happens to always be highly processed, high sugar, either sweets and salts, high calorie for a reason. But we use this as a coping mechanism for negative or heightened positive situations. So whether it's the Super Bowl was the other day, that's not a negative situation, it's a positive, but everybody wants to eat. It's a positive celebration. When you have something awesome happen, go out for drinks, go out for wine, have a lot of calories. So we do it both, whether it's negative or positive. The emotional side of eating is the fact that we have this trend or pattern of behaviors with a solution to a problem or a scenario. So we want to feel better, we eat food, Super Bowl party. We want to feel better, we have some sort of bad environment or some sort of bad episode happen, we go to food. It's an overused strategy that's very limiting. It's okay sometimes, not ideal for a long term. And so the question that was asked before everybody started showing up, we were just asking some questions about confusion. And so do emotions cause us to eat poorly, or does eating poorly cause us to feel bad? Who said both? Absolutely. It's 100%. It's a negative cyclical cycle, and it's very, very hard to break. I'm going to show what that looks like in a second. But 100%, food will cause you to feel bad. You know inherently, I shouldn't eat this, and we do it anyway. We feel bad almost as we're eating it. Oh, you feel pretty good. You get that dopamine shot, very short lasting. And the more aware of that we get, and the more we continue to do it, the worse we feel. The less the dopamine responds, the more bad food we have to eat. And then we go down that chocolate cycle of we just can't stop. And it's not our fault. It's biology and the way things are created. This cycle of emotional eating, something has us feeling down. There's an episode, some sort of event. We need a solution to feel better. What do? We eat bad food. What happens? Dopamine's released. We feel better, short term, right? We get that quick hit, then it fades. We feel worse. Feelings are still there though. What happened? Felt bad. What worked before? Bad food. Let's do it again. Let's just keep doing that, and and it's a negative spiral. It just keeps happening. They play off one another. The more often we do it, the more we feel bad, the more we want to eat bad food. We just continue to go down that road. So how do we change that? What can we do? Big thing is just become more aware. Awareness alone is often enough to create change. And so that's where we really want to get in, or what we're trying to get into today. So the cravings that can then to trigger the emotional eating or overindulgence, they have that strong biological components. We're going to talk biology and psychology. So really quickly, I'm going to get into this quick 5-minute video here. And so what this is, it's a TED Talk based on parts of biology, how we react to specific food and specifically sugar. And so I like that 5-minute video quite a bit because of how easily it shows the biology and it talks about why we become addicted to certain things. And then we start to see the correlation between food and drugs. Nobody here is addicted to sugar. If I asked, we talked about chocolate, so I apologize for picking on yourself about it, but we talked about chocolate. Has anybody here ever taken a tablespoon, dipped it in a jar of sugar, and started going at it? Come on now. Maybe when we were little, right? And so, but if anybody, I might be dating myself with back in Nova Scotia. Anybody ever remember those packets called Tang? Yeah. Oh, and we ate that with your finger, right? Yeah. And so that was a flavored sugar. We weren't addicted to sugar. We were addicted to the result from the behavior. Let me rephrase that. That's that pattern of behaviors. It's not sugar, because nobody here is going around at this point. You're not going home and dipping into sugar. We're dipping into chocolate. It's the connection of everything that we're doing. Going home into a specific environment, a specific place, before the chocolate even starts. That's the first pattern. The second pattern is then we sit down and we start playing the bumblebee dance in the cupboard and start looking at, I'm going to find something healthy. You look in that cupboard again and you think, oh, maybe I'm going to find something else, but we don't. There's nothing different. We're just trying to trick ourselves into figuring. These are the patterns. Recognize these starting, and then before they get to the chocolate, break that. So to go along with all those biological components of the video, psychology is what we have control over. Biology, we want to understand it. We're not going to stop that stuff. But what we can do is prevent it from getting worse with our behaviors, and that's what we're going to talk about here. So emotional reactivity is basically there's some sort of episode that happens and we react very quickly. We don't respond, we just react. It's the fastest human movement we can do. I work with a lot of athletes, we talk about muscle stuff. It's the same when it comes to language and voice. It's reactive, it's quick. It's not really thought out. So we want to change that a little bit. We have control over how an event affects us. We can't control the event itself. And then I just said that as I was looking down, sorry, that just worked out really well and it confused me. So this is the area that we can actually consciously act upon, and this is what we want to identify how feelings manifest as eating behaviors. Before, again, we ask the question, sometimes people don't eat. You get so stressed out, there's no food going in your body. Other times you get stressed out, all you can do is just eat to feel comfortable. So remember, both scenarios are the same thing. We're trying to find a solution to a problem. Our brains, our cerebral cortex, our conscious thought, was created to solve problems. It's essentially how we evolved back then. So if we don't have a problem, we're going to create a problem for ourselves to fix. And then it becomes, we'll talk about that another day, The Obstacle is the Way. It's a great book. Highly recommend reading that one. But essentially, if we can identify how our own feelings manifest, we can prevent and stop them from ever happening. So it's called, we're taking steps back to figure out why we ever got down to that binge in the first place. So when we respond to a situation with emotional reactivity, burst out, raised voice, we're essentially setting ourselves up for this cascade of hormonal and chemical shifts in our body as it's preparing for fight or flight. Evolutionary concepts, we hold on to this stuff. We have evolved society's evolved far too quickly for our biology. And so now we're at this play of what's going on. So if we're preparing for fight or flight, we have control over that. Are we going to fight it? Are we going to flight it? Or are we going to just figure things out? We, I believe, should be evolving into that category. And so we start talking about mindsets to reduce emotional reactivity. This is my first thing I teach virtually every young athlete that we work with about talking out, about coaches, their parents, etc. We start here because if we can start with young kids, by the time they're our age, we've done a lot of different. Remind yourself, and this is the first thing I do, because I used to be an emotional hothead. I'd react in every scenario as fast as humanly possible. It was not very healthy. But I remind myself now I have 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. That's biology for a reason as well. We were meant to see and hear a lot more than we were meant to talk. And so if we're in a scenario and somebody's yelling at me, I'm going to listen, I'm going to watch, I'm going to look at their body language, I'm going to get everything I can out of them. What type of language, type of pitch, what kind of body language, what kind of anger are they giving me? I'm going to get all that feeling, and I'm going to take a really deep breath. And I bet they keep talking as you're breathing. And that's okay. It's just allowing you to diffuse that anger even more before you respond. So I respond in kind last. I'll shape the path, and this is both a mindset strategy, but really a behavior as well, which can be done in many ways. So diffuse the situation, stress, anger. So shaping the path, if you've ever heard the book called Switch by Chip and Dan Heath, amazing book on changing behaviors. But the example they use in the book, imagine you are the conscious brain, which is the rider of the elephant. The elephant that you're riding is your emotions. Good luck controlling that. Tell that elephant to go that way. It's going to go wherever the hell it wants. Unless we block all the other roads and all it can do is go that way. It might go that way and I can't go there, so it starts to figure it out. The only path it can take is the one we want it to. So while we can't control it, we can certainly influence it. And that's probably one of the strongest strategies to make any change at any time, but especially emotional reactivity. And so emotional reactivity, a way that we could change it is essentially don't go into that situation. If you know that all you're going to do is get into a fight with that individual, don't do it. Shape the path. Avoid it. If you have to have that conversation, prepare for it. Shape the path. Prepare for the conversation. Know what you're about to get yourself into and hit on those crucial conversations. Okay? But we can shape that path. And then when I'm going off, I stop and I mindfully think, does this even matter to me? Does this matter to my core values? We've become so reactive, we get lost. So if we can come back to ourselves and identify, who am I and what's really important to me? Okay, that's what I am. If this is important, yeah, I'll give it the time, I'll give it the attention, I'll give it all the stress that it requires because it's important to me. If it's not, let that go. It's not worth it. Does that make sense? We do this a lot with our kids, with our athletes. Again, they get caught on all the stuff that doesn't matter to them. They don't know who they are, and that's fine. They're kids. We're adults. It's our job to know that stuff so we can help them. And so it starts here. And when we don't know who we are, we act upon things that don't matter all the time. And that is a whole different conversation we can have down the road. So those are mindsets. These ones would be your behaviors. So what do? I kind of talked about it, but I always take a deep breath before responding. I used to talk over everybody and finish their sentences. It was terrible. I was listening with intent to finish versus listening with intent to learn. It's a very different philosophy when it comes to language and listening. And again, that's another talk down the road. But I always want to take a deep breath before responding. It gives me that time to calm my nerves down and speak from a place of conscious thought versus emotional reactivity. Workout regularly. Before this, I didn't get my normal workout in, but I didn't get a workout yesterday. It was a crazy busy day. Today is going to be another one of those 30-minute workout, something quick before I got here, something that keeps me active. The endorphins, the blood flow helps you a heck of a lot when it comes with dealing with emotional situations. Eating quality foods and specific supplements. I'm busy today, so I've got my supplements to supply some nutrients, because otherwise the cortisol response from not eating, high stress, creates really hard decisions, really difficult to make decisions at that point. So eating quality foods and supplementing specifically to support your high performance output. I need to work out a lot. I train a lot of athletes. I run a business. I do a lot of other things, and so I need to be prepared for all of that stuff. That helps me prevent emotional reactivity, so the way we live our lives. Use positive and compassionate language with myself. If I make a mistake, I used to beat myself up. I am a perfectionist at heart still, but I understand perfect doesn't exist ever, and it will never, and that's okay. So I take a bit of a different look at things, but I use positive, compassionate language with myself. And on that note, with others too. It's just as important. If we can make that conversation a heck of a lot smoother, everything's going to be a lot easier to deal with. Whether or not I believe or I agree with the other person. So if I give that stuff back, I'm just going to deal with bullshit. I have control over that. I don't care if I'm wrong. I don't want to deal with bullshit. That's what matters more to me. It doesn't matter about being right or wrong. It matters about being able to help an individual see past whatever it is that they're stuck on. To me, anyway, that's my core value. If your core value is to fight everybody, well then keep going at it and let me know how that feels. And then I perform a 10-minute mindfulness exercise daily. That's something we were talking about for this talk, was to take you guys through this. Without getting into it too much, basically it's just a moment of time where I remove all distractions, I turn my phone off, I shut everything off so that I can pay attention to me for 10 minutes. I focus on breath, I count inhale 1, exhale 2 to 20, and then I just dial in, I just sense my body. I don't try to fix anything. I'm just like, yep, shoulder's pretty tight today. Ooh, back feels pretty awesome. And then I just move through my whole body. 10 minutes later, alarm goes off, I go about the rest of my day. Reduces your stress immensely. It modulates parasympathetic and sympathetic drive. And we're into that parasympathetic drive. We can rest and recover a heck of a lot better, and we're not always in fight or flight. So we can respond in kind much easier. With ourselves and with others. It makes a big difference. So how to change the habit? Those are all the things to prevent, shaping the path, preventing stuff from happening. What can we do once we've caught ourselves in this environment? Well, think of food as fuel for performance and pleasure, rather than just good or bad or guilt. And so on Super Bowl Sunday, I planned for it. I was going to enjoy whatever the heck I wanted. We got pizza, we got wings, and I had ice cream. It was awesome. Yesterday, I had a plan for that. I fasted most of the day. Had my supplements, totally fine. I knew I wasn't really going to be able to work out very much, so a fasted day was okay for me. Balanced everything out. But I look at food as performance and pleasure versus whether that's good or bad. If that makes good sense. Don't overthink it or underthink it. We can't just avoid food altogether and say, whatever, I'll eat whatever I want. We've got to have a plan without dwelling or obsessing over it. Understand how food choices relate to health and performance in more areas than just the gym. So as far as cancer, inflammation, right? Every food that we eat could create inflammation. The more inflammation we have, the more diseases we're going to end up with. So if we think about food that way, it really starts to prioritize saying yes or no to a whole lot of extra bad stuff or a whole lot of healthier stuff, especially with our genetics. And enjoy food. Enjoy good food, but we don't seek emotional solace from it. A lot of my clients tell me they're foodies and there's a good reason why they can't lose weight. I call it on them. Say, I love food, but I plan for it and I enjoy it at certain times. I'll enjoy a really good meal if I make it myself. I won't enjoy it if I go to a restaurant because I have no idea how it was cooked and chances are there was something wrong and I'm probably going to complain about it. And so identifying who you are helps out with those things. But you want to enjoy it, not seek emotional solace from it. Have a little self-compassion. I did eat more than I wanted to on Sunday. a lot more than I wanted to. It was a really boring game if anybody watched. So negative emotional situation, I ate more than I probably should have, life goes on. I probably fasted longer than I had to yesterday. Again, life goes on. Today, I feel much better. But using that compassionate, positive language helps. Behavior, so what sort of things can you do? Take action to educate. Coming to things like this, looking into it. I've seen a few people taking pictures of the slides today. We're gonna send them out to you guys. Educate yourselves. Awareness alone can create change, but understanding that awareness or knowledge is the simplest form of knowing anything. Taking action is the only way that knowledge matters. So take action, educate yourself and take action on it. Choose when to indulge in junk food. I kind of mentioned that, but I planned for Sunday. I planned for a cheat day and it was awesome and I didn't worry about it. When I do have cravings, yes, yesterday I had more cravings for bad food. I said no. I understood that I didn't need it. I understood that performance-wise it was going to affect me in a negative way and it wouldn't be the right solution. It's a solution and a strategy that I do talk about. Without getting too detailed, I would say, why am I going to be binge eating or why am I going to be doing that in the first place? I.e., is it going to be a healthy behavior? Am I going to be going and drinking 3 bottles of wine? If so, I'm going to probably change the behavior first and not worry about what happens before. That being said, if I know I'm going to a birthday and I'm going to have some cake, I'm going to have an extra treat, and I'm probably going to have a beer or two, yeah, I'll probably fast for about 6 hours before that meal. So I might miss one meal. That's okay. We're talking about trends over time, not every single thing. And again, I'm not recommending necessarily that. I'm saying that's a solution or a strategy that I do typically use with clients, yes. So choosing foods that will satisfy and improve health goals. So choosing foods that will satisfy. If we don't have enough protein, fat, and carb and micronutrients in our body, our body won't sense that we're full and hit satiety. And so at that point, we're just going to say, well, give me some more stuff. And so if we aren't getting the right macronutrients, micronutrients, our body will still recognize that we need to get more food in us. So eating processed foods that we don't recognize as whole foods or good stuff might not lead to feeling full, i.e. then you continue to continue to overeat, getting more calories in your body, gaining weight. These are the systems that are at play, or mechanisms that are at play. 2 more, and these are my cornerstone habits, but essentially eating slowly and mindfully to 80% full. I will literally work on that with clients for months. Timing yourself, how long it takes you to eat, how full do you feel? If you have a really deep breath, you say, oh, that's more than 80% full. We want to get to the point where you say, take a deeper breath, but you feel like you could probably get up and go for a light little movement. Not a sprint, but a light jog, a couple air squats, a couple push-ups, and you wouldn't feel like you're going to throw up. If you get to that point, you have eaten too much and you've overloaded your body's system. So eating to 80% full, very important. Mindfully is paying attention to what food you're eating, how do they taste, and how full are you? Senses. And then eating slowly. Take your time, chew, put your stuff down. I ask every one of my clients, and every single one of my clients that's overweight, I ask them this question. When you eat, do you already have food on your fork before you finish chewing? Yeah, 100%. So before you've got all that stuff down, take a minute, take a couple breaths even, holy shoot, maybe drink some water, and then go for the next forkful. If you're literally constantly there waiting for it, there's something happening. Pay attention to that, eat slowly, mindfully to 80% full. And then take action. So taking action is anything really, but meal prep, grocery shop, cook, planning your meals, trying something new, going to a different place, taking action. So, in summary, heck of a lot of stuff today. We are all emotion leaders, every single one of us, both good and bad. It's in our stomach. We're hardwired for that. We don't have control over it. Food is a solution that many use, creates temporary happiness, but it leads to that negative cycle. It is a very limiting solution and not one that I recommend long term. To break this, we've got to shift our mindset and behaviors around emotions, emotional reactivity. So just by saying, this meal plan is perfect. I have written, I don't know how many A+ plans that fail every time because there was no action taken on them. The C+ plan that people do regularly works a lot better than an A+ plan that you never do. And so context really matters, but shifting your mindset and behaviors around emotions will make a big difference. Having strategies to prevent emotional eating episodes. And if you've tried all these things and you've been struggling for more than 6 months, get a coach, get somebody to help you with it, whether it's a nutritionist, a nutrition coach like myself, your parents, your kids, your family members, somebody that knows about this stuff that can support you. Often I hear this, I know what to do, I just don't do it. Well, then you don't know what you're doing. It is what it is. If you're not doing it, you haven't figured out the right steps to take. The knowledge might be there, but the action plan, the application might not be, and ask for help or some support. That can clarify a lot of stuff. Sometimes it's just being told, yeah, you're right, do it. And then people go and do it. A lot of times it's affirmation that we seek. And so a coach can help in so many different ways. but I have talked to too many people that have said, I've struggled with this for 20 years, 30 years. You've lived your life in that much of a struggle. I do not want to see it. And so I always recommend, even us, our coaches, we all have coaches at the gym. We all have mentors. I mentor my staff, and then I tell them, go find others. Have others that are going to help you, and seek. How do we help? Online coaching. I'll go through all these really quickly. Online coaching, personal training, and then performance lifestyle intensives. And so what I mean by all that, online coaching, yes, we do offer customized training programs and support. So email support, everything's delivered online, it's all digital. Nutrition and lifestyle coaching, everything that we're talking about today, you can imagine each topic can expand exponentially, and everybody here is different. Somebody might need a specific topic, and others might need a totally different topic. So it's all customized to the individual. Personal training, one-on-one or semi-private training. So one-on-one, yes, a little bit more expensive, but you get very detailed information. Also, if you have a few friends that want to train together, you save a heck of a lot of money, keeps some accountability, keeps a little bit more fun, and then you all have something to work on together. And then a performance lifestyle intensive. And so this is with myself, where we sit down for anywhere from 60 to 120 minutes, or an hour or 2 hours. Basically, we identify where you are. You're going to fill out a questionnaire first. Everything to find out where you are right now. And you're going to paint me a picture of where you want to be. I coach the gap. That's it. It's my job. And so your job is to tell me where you are. I ask you the questions to figure that out, because a lot of times people don't really know. And then I ask you the questions to paint the picture, but that's all of your answers, and then we help you get there. But I own a gym in town. It's very local. It's a high performance style gym. We do offer general gym memberships, but personal training, athletic development, nutrition coaching, and all these things. And so I always say, if you've been struggling with this for a long time, whether it's us, I can point you in another direction to something that's more convenient, or somebody that's a registered dietitian or things like that. But if you're struggling with these things, get a coach. It's not worth it to struggle. Life is too short. Sorry, it's not worth it to suffer. Struggling is normal. Suffering is a choice. If you feel like you're suffering, that is on you. It's nobody else. And so we can change that. Anything can create a sense of dopamine response. So if you have artificial sweeteners and it still creates that same response, you're still getting the addiction to it. And then there's a whole host of other issues with an artificial beverage. And so in my opinion, I would say, in moderation, just like anything, it's okay. I have Coke Zero whenever I have a craving for it, because that's my solution. I used to be addicted to energy drinks through university, 2, 3 a day, all the time, nonstop. So when I get those cravings, sugar-free Coke Zero, yes, artificial flavor, or carbonated water. Gives me that same bite kind of feel. Now I have a single gulp and it's like I just throw it out. It curves the craving really quickly. But yeah, I would still say in moderation, never very often, especially not as a given replacement.
How about fruit?
Fruit? Yep. So I get a lot of different questions about it. Fruit is good for us in moderation. Same as protein, same as water, same as eggs. And so what I mean by that is, if you have a goal of weight loss, focus more on vegetables. You'll get a lot of nutrients from it with less calories. If your goal is to build muscle or higher performance, focus a little bit more on fruit. It's a little bit more nutrient dense, natural sugars, and those are okay. Our body will take fruit. Good luck. Tell me if you can eat 10 apples. Try. I dare you. You won't. Have 1 glass of orange juice. It's 8 to 10 apples. It's the way things are created that we can, our evolution hasn't gotten there. So with the fiber of an apple and the sugar of an apple, eat it and you'll feel very full after probably 2, maybe 3 if you're bigger. Try 10. Glass of orange juice, glass of apple juice, how many oranges is in there? They say, yeah, you're getting 8 to 10 oranges, you're getting all that vitamin C. Your body wasn't meant to take that much and that much sugar. Same as with milk. If you look at regular milk, a glass of regular milk is probably 8 to 12 to 14 grams of sugar at least. And so sodium, sugar, these are huge misconceptions out there, and I don't want to leave everybody with a whole lot of confusion. I'm going to do it again, sorry, but I coach a lot of fitness competitors. I give them salt before competitions. They look great. Salt does not create bloating. Salt does not create hypertension, and I'm probably going to get blasted with this one, so I apologize if anybody disagrees with me. I would love to show you lots of research. Being deficient in salt is a big problem. Being too much in salt is a big problem. When you sweat, you lose a lot of salt. If you're an athlete, you're sweating a lot. You're losing a lot of salt. You need to replenish it. There are types that are better, and if you have too much salt, that's a problem too. But just as if you have too little testosterone or too little estrogen or too little of anything or too much, we're going to have problems. As you're eating your meals, no additional, so you're not adding sugar to your foods. But if you have some fruit, that's okay. I wouldn't say there's a necessary gram amount or a percentage amount, but I would say you avoid adding any additional, and you avoid foods that are really super high in sugar. So I wouldn't necessarily say go ahead and crush like 3 bowls of oatmeal, especially sugar-filled oatmeal, or I wouldn't recommend going and getting flavored yogurts that are super high in sugar. Does that make sense? So with an individual that's not as active, I would say don't be afraid of sugar, but definitely avoid adding excessive amounts or foods that are high in it, i.e. something that has more than 10% sugar in it. So if it's 100 grams of something and there's more than 10 grams of sugar in that, it's more than 10% of it, so that's a high percentage of sugar. Okay, and then and really the biggest question would be between fruit and or vegetables. I would say 4 servings of vegetables to 1 serving of fruit, and that's the ratio I start with. So if you have 8 servings of vegetables in a day, that's awesome. You'd have 2 servings of fruit, that's great. If your goal is to build muscle, we'd flip that. You're welcome.